Coming soon to own on
YouTube and Twitch. Crazy cults that are still active to this day. Now, in this time period now, there's a lot of places a lot of things people just call cults when it's really not. People like to compare similarities to things. Or like, oh, you all believe in this one thing, it's a cult, when it's really not. So today we're gonna actually look at real cults and to show, kind of the analytics of what an actual cult is.
Crazy cults that are still active today. The Church of God with signs following. Have you ever been in a standard run-of-the-mill Christian church and just thought to yourself, wow, this is really missing something. This is missing a lot of venomous snakes. Well, if you have...
What? You a fuck? Alright, bro. Alright. Yeah, that started off crazy. I'm not gonna...
Surprisingly, you wouldn't be the first, and you would also be a perfect candidate for the Church of God with signs following, which in itself is just a strange name. But trust me when I say that the name is the least strange thing about this cult. Members of the Church of God with signs following are either holiness or Pentecostal Christians, which at a glance may seem normal. However, it's the specific rite or ritual that the Church of God with signs following focus on that makes their congregation so odd. To put it bluntly, one of the core elements of the Church of God with signs following is serpent handling. Specifically the belief that if you are a true Christian, you should easily be able to handle a venomous snake or serpent event.
And see, this is why I say, I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in all the other shit other Christians believe in. I just believe in God, and I believe He's gonna protect me, keep me safe. I don't believe in snake handling. Come on, I promise you, there's nothing in the Bible that says that you should be able to handle a fucking venomous snake.
Variety without suffering any negative consequence. And in case handling the snake is not enough, you should also be able to consume venom from these venom.
You might as well just play Russian roulette at this point. Get the revolver, just put it to your head, and you doing the same shit.
Completely issue free. And spoiler alert, there was issues. But before we get too into the weeds on incidents, let me give you some history. The religious practice of snake handling goes all the way back to the 2nd century, when the Ophites reportedly handled snakes during their services and also worshipped serpents. And the tradition has also been seen in ancient Egypt. But the tradition of handling snakes for religious purposes didn't appear in the United States until 1910. And this practice is generally associated with the ministry of George Wendt Hesley, a minister from Tennessee. George was
goddamn Tennessee. Fuck Tennessee, man. Always doing some bullshit.
Originally a minister at the Church of God. However, in 1922, he resigned, citing troubles at home, and decided to take his ministry on the road. Through the late 1920s and even 1930s, George traveled through the southeast United States, resuming his ministry as a traveling preacher, promoting both God and the specific practice of serpent handling. Now, interestingly, basically every place that George visited to share this practice was extremely receptive to it, which is...
Do you think because around that time, a lot of wars and battles were happening, so a lot of people were like, they turned to him because they needed somebody to turn to. I feel like that's why he got all these people to kind of buy into the snake thing.
At least to me, a bit shocking. Although it is reported that George was extremely charismatic, persuasive, and passionate about the craft. During his time on the road, George visited small towns in Tennessee, Kentucky, the Carolinas, Virginia, Ohio, and even Indiana. And it's reported that each small town adopted the serpent test of faith with overwhelming popularity after having a demonstration from George himself. And it's because of this that the greater Appalachian region kind of adopted the practice. And I mean, I guess you've kind of got to be a charismatic guy to convince random people you don't know that the best way to worship God is, of course, by handling snakes and drinking venom. From the 1930s to the 1940s and 50s and beyond,
Alright, bro. Come on. Dude, we had bigger things to worry about than snake handling in the 1940s. It was whole World War II.
Churches that went on to adopt this serpent handling ritual became known broadly as Churches of God with signs following. And while most of these churches had no real connection besides their Pentecostal roots, the practice of snake handling was able to bring them together and have them categorized as the cult we're discussing right now. Now, if you're asking yourself, where does this belief even come from? And what does it have to do with Christianity at all? Well, the answer is the Bible, actually. People who participate in the serpent handling believe it is so important because of the two following quotes. In Luke 10:19, for example, it says, quote, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." Interesting, relatively vague, and I think more metaphorical than anything, but there's also
100%
another quote that's a
metaphorical.
bit more direct, and that's Mark 16:17-18. That goes as follows, quote, "And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils, they shall speak with new tongues, they shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." That is a bit more direct, and if you were, laying around in the
Yeah, the Great Depression era, World War II era, and you hear something like that, I feel like that would give you a lot of empowerment. But also, that's why I feel like religiously, I don't believe in like a lot of these some of the things people do because of religion. Like, I don't believe that. I feel like it gets like these words get misinterpreted. Like you don't really understand what he was trying to say. I feel like that was also more metaphorical than literal.
1930s, and you had a charismatic man show up into your town with snakes and proof from the Bible that handling snakes could make you more godly, or at least prove your godliness, I could see that argument. However, it's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows. And that's because, unsurprisingly and unfortunately, this practice did lead to deaths. Potentially one of the most ironic and notable deaths caused by this practice was the death of George Went Hensley himself, when in July of 1955, he died after receiving a snake bite at a service he was conducting in
But I'm not gonna lie, he was 30 years doing this. Maybe it did work.
Florida.
Shit.
Although George passed away because of this tradition, the tradition did not pass away with him. And this practice and larger cult that he was essentially the grandfather of continued to go on for decades and still persists in the modern day. Honestly, I feel like that'd be a really cool video for those, boots on the ground YouTubers that just film videos with people. Like, imagine a video, I spent 24 hours
I thought it was like one or two people that still did this. They got their grandmas doing this.
with the snake cult. That would be cool to see, and maybe we'll see it someday. But for now, this is all you got. Now, back to the tragedies. It's been reported that at least 35 people have died between 1936 and 1973 due
35 people in 40 years. It's
to
not
the
that
serpent
bad.
handling practice. And it's also been stated by multiple sources that today there's likely been at least 105 deaths caused by this serpent handling practice
Wow.
associated with the Church of God with science following. Realistically, the beliefs of this church are going to be the least crazy we talk about because it's honestly just an odd corner of Christianity that, loves snake handling. However, as we've seen, there has definitely been unfortunate tragedies due to this practice. But with that being said, don't touch venomous snakes, and let's move on. Happy science.
But that's
Admittedly,
common
Happy Science
sense.
sounds rather cute and sounds like it could also be part of a kindergarten curriculum. Although, unsurprisingly, the reality of this cult is not cute whatsoever. Happy Science was founded in 1986 in Japan by a man named Ryu Okawa. Ryu was a successful businessman and stock trader who worked internationally. Although as a student and as a working professional, before he even established Happy Science, he knew that he was meant for something more in this life. And he claims this explicitly, stating in one instance, for example, in 1981, 5 years before the establishment of the Happy Science cult, that while working a job, Ryu experienced Buddha enlightenment and came in contact with a divine spirit. This spirit began communicating with him and told him, quote, good news, good news. Ryu felt so compelled by this message that he grabbed a pen and paper, wrote it down, and then began asking the spirit that was contacting him, who are you? And Ryu alleges that the spirit was a spirit known as Niku Shonin, a senior disciple from the Buddhist religion. Following that experience in 1981, Ryu made it his mission and destiny to found a new religion. And that he did. And only years later, Happy Science was founded and things got extremely weird. Ryu was a massive believer in the spirit world. And in a 2-year span from 1985 to 1987 alone, he published 13 books in an effort
Damn, nigga. 13 books about it?
to prove the existence of that spirit world. And interestingly, the final 2 books that he published came out in 1991, and these books titled The Great Warning of Allah and The Terrifying Revelations of Nostradamus were both #1 bestsellers in Japan, which is concerning for reasons we'll get into. You see, on a surface level, Happy Science claims to be a group that is about peace, love, truth-seeking, self-reliance, and ultimate prosperity and happiness. and their goal is to spread happiness and peace by spreading the word and truth of their religion. But would you be surprised if I told you that the true intentions of Happy Science are much darker, and the beliefs surrounding Happy Science are, well, downright delusional? The core belief of Happy Science is that an ancient deity named El Cantare, who is claimed to be the highest god on Earth and the lord of all gods, was originally the ruler of Venus, but came to Earth to establish the human race. And over the course of all of human history, El Cantare has been watching over humanity and has even been reincarnated multiple times to ensure humanity's prosperity.
Alright, did this nigga throw Timothy Chalamet in the mix?
And the most recent incarnation of the highest god of all gods and this ancient spirit from Venus is, of course, well, Ryu Okawa himself.
And I feel like you had niggas until you try to pull that bullshit. Oh yeah, this deity, he's higher than all the gods. He's the god of the gods. He used to watch over Venus. He watches over the earth. He reincarnates into different things. Oh, but one more thing, he reincarnated to me, like just me though. He's basically me. Yeah. It's like,
which is why, of course, he's leading Happy Science, because he is the true enlightened one. And he is so enlightened, in fact, that he claims that he speaks to nearly every single god on a daily basis. Not only can he communicate with gods, but he can also communicate with the spirits of dead historical figures. And there's actually a hilarious interview clip of Okawa doing an interview where he is allegedly possessed by the spirit of Margaret Thatcher and speaking from...
Before he shows the clip, how much you want to bet? He's gonna tilt his head back and roll his eyes. He's gonna go.
Her spirit. Like, just watch this. This is hilarious.
I can't.
Oh.
I'm still alive.
Your ex-Prime Minister,
Prime Minister.
Margaret Thatcher?
I've been Prime Minister. Dennis!
Besides that core belief of the, well, ancient deity from Venus creating all humanity and now being Okawa himself, they also believed in the existence of reincarnation, angels, demons, heaven, hell, and, of course, aliens. And while this cult has extremely kooky roots, from its establishment in 1986 to its #1 bestseller books in 1991, the cult was able to grow to over 5.6 million members.
Wow. You know how crazy you gotta be to get 5.6 million people to believe that?
Worldwide. In 1991 is where things really took off, because the Japanese government officially recognized Happy Science as a religion, giving it a lot more validity. And due to this national recognition, Happy Science took its marketing to the next level, not only releasing ad campaigns, but also creating its own anime to spread its message. But on top...
See? What the fuck? I'm Helen Keller? Yo, unrelated take, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Helen Keller was real. I'm just saying, if she was blind and deaf since the time she was 3 years old, how do you teach English to somebody like that? Oh no, she was blind and deaf since she was born. How do you teach English to somebody who can't read, or listen? Like, how do I teach you, the concept of a letter if you don't know what the letter looks like? Or what it sounds like, or what words sound like. But yeah, this how Japan PR be ever since they started dropping anime. Japan PR been through the roof.
Of creating animes and running marketing campaigns, Okawa did not stop writing books. And it's believed that to date, there have been thousands of books written by Okawa, most of which being just transcriptions from his long, drawn-out, well, speeches. And with the combination of all this media being pumped out and the unlikely success of some of this media, Happy Science was gaining a lot of cash flow, allowing them to, of course, further expand their message. And this expansion eventually led to the establishment of their own political party in Japan. That's right, Happy Science was not happy enough being...
Wait, so how does a religion gain a political party? See, now that's like kind of crazy.
Being a cult, they also had to create their own political party, known as the Happiness Realization Party. Now, while Happy Science was kind of able to hide under the guise of being a spiritual awakening and a general positivity and happiness and love-sharing group, the political party is really where the cracks started to show. From its establishment on May 23rd, 2009, the HRP, or Happiness Realization Party, expressed some of the following beliefs or policies. The party believed that a nuclear deterrent was absolutely necessary for Japan. They believed that the Nanking Massacre never happened and that Japan never committed any atrocities against China or Korea.
See, and that's what I mean. Like, niggas start dropping anime, and all of a sudden, bro, all this shit go out the window. Nah, none of that shit happened. But hey, we got this new anime coming up. That's like, all love. I got all love for Japan. I'm just stating the obvious. Just stating the obvious.
The party believed that Japan invading China and Korea could be possible good ideas, and at the very least, they should extremely militarize Japan. And they also had a laser focus on doubling the population of Japan, bringing it to 300 million in the course of only a few decades. These are really only a few tame examples of what the Happiness Realization Party wanted to accomplish with political power. And it really does serve as a stark contrast between the messages of the cult versus the messages of the political party. Because, as I stated, the cult or religion claimed to be all about inclusivity and love and happiness and literally saving the world through enlightening people to happiness and love and realizing your inner peace. Or, something like that. That's essentially what they claimed. If you ignore all of the, ancient deity from Venus starting humanity stuff. Regardless, unsurprisingly, this political party was not nearly as popular as Ryu would have wanted. They gained no seats in parliament, and I think largely they were rather obscure and seen as more of a laughingstock. Now, interestingly,
Definitely
both the
seen as a
cult
laughingstock.
and political party exist to this very day. Although in recent years they have been, heavily discredited by inside members. Specifically, the son of Ryu Okawa and the wife of Ryu Okawa, who have both disowned the cult, saying there's not nearly as many members as there are claimed, and basically disowned.
Then, hey, just pack it up, gang. Nigga, your own son and your wife calling you out.
Their father and husband, saying he was crazy, and this entire cult is, a crazy cult. But believe it or not, even with all this lunacy, they still had a literal university that they established in Japan that still
They got a
exists to this very day.
university?
And I guess, speaking of this very day, as of the date of recording this video, Happy Science and the Happiness Realization Party are both still active. But interestingly, they are no longer run by Ryu Okawa, simply because he had passed away. On March 2nd,
Wow.
2023, the reincarnation of a spirit from Venus had passed away, and since then, the management of both Happy Science and the Happiness Realization Party has kind of been a mystery. Because while they remain active, there doesn't appear to be any clear, or at least expressed, change of leadership. And we very well could be actively watching the downfall of this crazy religion that, in my opinion, got way more success and notoriety than it probably ever should have. From ancient
100%.
deities to anime to millions of dollars to thousands of books.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it was the anime that really took it over. That's where, yeah.
To far-right extremism, Happy Science kind of has it all, and I truly hope that this small, oversimplified section has given you a small glimpse into the sheer depravity of, that religion turned political party. And with that, let's move on. Grace Road. In the last section, we discussed what happens when you mix insane religious ideologies and extreme political policies. But in this section, we're going to discuss what happens when you mix insane religious ideologies, extreme political policies, and fresh produce. I'm not
It was North Korea shit.
even joking. Grace Road was established in South Korea in
Oh, South
2002
Korea.
by a woman named Okju Shin. Okju Shin formed the Grace Road Church because she believed that a doomsday event was on the immediate horizon, and it was her duty to do something about it and to begin informing people, so she and her select chosen few could not only save themselves during this doomsday event, but also save as much of the world as they could, or at least so they said. Like basically every cult that's ever existed, its origins and beliefs start with fear-mongering, world-ending, doomsday events that require immediate attention from basically anybody they can get their hands on. And while
Yeah.
doomsday events can be scary and compelling, so far we've seen that, they've never really happened. That being said, that fact does not stop Grace Road from growing within South Korea. And from 2002 until 2014, Ok Jushin's teaching of a world-ending event and doomsday event coming soon was at least convincing enough for
I think this one was convincing because I don't know if it was worldwide, but in America, obviously the 2000s it was supposed to be a world-ending event, and then the 2012 there was another world-ending event, and then obviously our America started doing their shit with Iran,
400 people to join the cult. Now, as I stated, a big
and then you got that they got them boys up north with the K. Can't say that name. Don't send the blood trucks on me. But they got them to worry about. So I think that's why they kind of flocked to her.
big part of the belief of this, church was the fact that they were going to survive this doomsday event and any famine, and one of their plans of doing so was by creating one of the best farms the world has ever seen. And it's even stated on the Grace Road website that, quote, a missionary for the church was sent around the world to discover a land to survive the famine. And after scouring 60 countries, we settled on Fiji. And it's actually the move that Grace Road took from South Korea to Fiji that is truly a turning point in the story.
Niggas just wanted to go to
Because in
Fiji.
the early years of this cult in South Korea, they were essentially doing planning, gathering resources, ideas, spreading the message, and getting people. But once they found the right country and had enough people, the execution of this plan was truly evil. And interestingly, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, even though there is literally verifiable, provable video evidence of human rights violations taking place at the hands of the Grace Road cult, they are
Nah, that's insane, bro. Come on. Come on. You getting yanked by your hair?
still operating in Fiji to this day and have some of the most successful businesses stimulating the economy of Fiji, which is why this story gets so insane and genuinely complex. The primary goal of Grace Road moving to Fiji was not to coexist and stimulate the economy. It was a meticulously planned hostile takeover that has been extremely effective. And this is a hostile takeover of both Fijian land, job, and natives, but also of the lives of the members of Grace Road, because it is alleged that as soon as all of the members moved from South Korea to Fiji,
They caught
all of them
disease?
had their passports seized to ensure they had nowhere to go. And once these
Wow.
members were essentially stuck on this island, things only got worse and worse. Interestingly, Grace Road didn't enter Fiji as a church. They entered as a business, and the first establishment was Grace Farm. And this farm was the first of many businesses to be established by Grace Road as part of this hostile takeover I mentioned previously. Shortly after the establishment of this farm in 2014, Grace Road established 7 different restaurants in the following year in 2015, ranging from grocery stores, noodle stores, pizza stores, dessert cafes, chicken grills, and beyond just growing produce.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't join the cult, but I will be damned not to try the grocery store, the noodle store, the pizza, the dessert cafes. South Koreans, they can, they can get right with some chicken. They can get right with some chicken. I'll be damned if I don't try this. I'm not gonna lie. Y'all lying too. Y'all tell me y'all wouldn't try this, even knowing that like what she's doing. It's like, oh, a terrible person. But you doing all this. Look, I gotta see what the food talking about.
And selling food to locals, they also established their own construction company on island. And Grace Road was quickly becoming vertically integrated on this island. And while on the outside this would seem like a great foreign investment stimulating the local economy, on the inside it was becoming very obvious that this hostile takeover was not only malicious but devious for both the members of the cult and the locals, who unfortunately didn't know it yet. Now, interestingly, during the same time that Grace Road was becoming established within Fiji, Fiji was more or less under a military dictatorship that was extremely oppressive, or at least that's how it's been described by the people who lived through it. And it was because of this extremely strict and violent government that freedom of speech was extremely suppressed, and any negative talk about Grace Road was quickly shut down, along with any negative talk about the current government in Fiji as well. Unsurprisingly, this oppressive cult and this oppressive government quickly got rather tight with each other. And
Oh my God, their brother in arms. Oh my God, their brother in arms. This is like Saddam Hussein and Hitler finally met up with each other, bro.
formed essentially a synergistic relationship. The government of Fiji would invest money into the Grace Road businesses. Grace Road would build businesses that the government of Fiji wanted to see on island. The businesses were succeeding, and ultimately the government was able to see the businesses they couldn't make be formed. And the cult was essentially able to have immunity from the government because of the economic impact they were creating. Now, at this point, you're definitely asking yourself, okay, what were they doing? You've been hinting at it. What's going on behind doors? What exactly was this cult doing? And while the doomsday beliefs of this cult are nothing new, it's the actions that this cult was taking that make it so diabolical. As I mentioned earlier, almost as soon as they landed on island, they took the passports from everybody, essentially securing free labor for years to come. And that's because many members of Grace Road, and later on locals as well, were forced into labor at the consistent threat of physical punishment and torture. And it was quickly becoming obvious to the members who went to Fiji that the Grace Road cult was not necessarily about saving the world or themselves at all. Grace Road was
They got tricked into slavery. That's an insane, that's an insane thought to think about. They deadass just got tricked into slavery.
It's more so about securing cheap labor and trafficking people from their home countries to Fiji to ensure that their greater plan of, well, overthrowing Fiji and making it their own home base possible. Interestingly, violence wasn't something that you were just threatened with in this cult. It was a core attribute. And this was proven in 2018 when footage emerged of members of this cult forcibly slapping each other in an attempt to, quote, beat the devil out of each other. And it was shown that in a documentary that aired in South Korea, many ex-members of this cult detailed disgusting allegations of physical abuse, being overworked, not being paid for work, being imprisoned, detained, beaten, and basically being sold the dream of salvation while living the reality of somebody in a Russian labor camp.
What I tell you, I told you they got tricked into being slaves. Yeah, that's what happened.
Fortunately, the reign of terror created by Grace Road did not continue for very long, as the political climate in Fiji changed and stories got out about what was truly going on behind the scenes and the abuse that was taking place. And because of this, investigations were swiftly enacted in Fiji and in South Korea. Unsurprisingly, these investigations led to the arrest of Ok Ju Shin and other high-ranking members of the cult. Although the cult is still active to this day and all of these businesses are still operating. Interestingly, in the businesses in Fiji, you can still get pamphlets that are written from Ok Ju Shin from jail. And these pamphlets only further prove that this woman is willing to stop at nothing to complete her goal. At this point, you almost have to question, is this woman truly just trying to prepare herself and her followers to survive a doomsday event and live in bliss? Or
Fuck
is
no.
this woman just a massive grifter using religion?
I mean, damn. She slapped the shit out of this nigga. God damn. Knocked the taste out of his mouth.
Fear and physical violence as a means to traffic and control people in an attempt to grow a massive corporate empire to gain leverage and eventual control of small countries and larger countries until she can, well, eventually run the world. But yeah, if you happen to be a tourist in Fiji, you might notice a lot of Grace Road restaurants and grocery stores and dentistry offices and hardware stores, and you might think that, wow, this is just a really cool local chain. But in reality, the entire lore of Grace Road and the cult behind it is just so hard to wrap your head around. And fortunately, right now, justice is starting to be served, although there are still many very real victims of this cult that took pride in the violence it instilled on its members and almost treated physical violence as a certain virtue. This has to be one of the most...
Now, don't get me wrong. Terrible, terrible events. Don't tell me you at least don't want to try that food. You know, if this food is so good, you're enslaving to this many people, I gotta at least try it once. That's a crazy thought. I'm just saying. You doing all this, the food better be good at least.
Notable examples of a cult almost successfully taking over a country, and to this day, Grace Road owned businesses are still highly crucial to...
Like, look at this. Tell me you wouldn't try this at least once. At least once. Just once. You don't even have to eat inside. Just try it. Please tell.
The economy and, well, livelihood of people in Fiji, making the story that much more complex and truly unfortunate. And what else is unfortunate is the fact that there are so many cults that are still active to this very day. And it was for that reason that it was kind of tough to boil down so many options into one single video. But here's the deal. I love to make videos that you guys want to see. And so if you would like me to cover more cults that are still active today, all you need to do is let me know. Either leave a like or leave a comment below saying part 2, and I'll be sure to get working on that. And I guess if you're part of the 75% of watchers that are currently not subscribed, consider subscribing so you do not miss that part 2. And with that being said, let's get to the final cult on this list. Superior Universal Alignment. Up until this point, the depravity of the cults we've discussed has ranged pretty drastically. However, this last entry is definitely the most disturbing by far, and it's also the most obscure, with a lot of information being pretty tough to find, at least in English. From 1989 to 1993, a mysterious trend started popping up in rural Brazil of young boys going missing only to later be found dead and mutilated, specifically being castrated. And it was with these discoveries that authorities originally thought there was an organ trafficking ring taking place in this small town in Brazil. But what the authorities didn't know is that they weren't dealing with organ traffickers whatsoever. What they were dealing with was an insane cult. The Superior Universal Alignment was born in rural Brazil, allegedly by a woman named Valentina de Andrade, and she, like others on this list, claimed to have received messages from extraterrestrials. But the messages she received from these extraterrestrials were not about love or peace, they were about a doomsday event. But not only was she enlightened to a doomsday event, but she was also enlightened on how she could survive. Although disgustingly, this revelation...
Why would an alien give us a warning about a doomsday event, let alone tell you how to survive the doomsday event. See, like that, a lot of people don't question things like that. That's why they fall for shit like this. Because, you know, why would I tell you how to survive this? If I want to take over your world, why would I tell you how to survive?
And the doctrine that, well, spawned from it was truly evil. The doctrine that the Superior Universal Alignment followed was that boys born after 1981 were evil or tainted, and
Wow.
because of this, they needed to be purged from the.
Now, not in Brazil, but South America. I think around this time there was one dude. He was a serial killer. He killed over 300, I think, like little girls. And it was around this time, I think, where they caught him, or like a couple years after.
Earth. And it was
It's an
because of
insane
this
word.
that Valentina began using her cult members essentially as hitmen to begin murdering young boys. And because of this, as many as 19 boys were victimized, all
Wow.
between the ages of 8 to 13, all with the sole goal of essentially sacrificing these innocent children to an extraterrestrial god to ensure that Valentina and her followers would be seen as true believers and saved by these aliens when the end times would come, which were allegedly very soon. Now, for a bit of context, it's important to mention that the reason that Valentina even had hitmen at the ready was because after this extraterrestrial premonition she had in her mind, she began
Hold on, she kind of bad though. She ain't bad enough, bro.
preaching about the end times locally, and somehow she caught the attention of notable players within her community, specifically businessmen and doctors. And it was with the influence of these businessmen and the skill of these doctors that she was able to carry out some of the most evil acts in the name of, well, cult sacrifice. Personally, I don't understand how you can have a random woman tell you that, hey, yeah, the world's gonna end like in 10 years and we have to kill children in order to have aliens take us on their spaceship to save us, but
Even if aliens do come, I feel like, me personally, there's a high chance that aliens aren't bulletproof. And if they are, oh well, we're fucked. But I'd rather take that risk of aliens aren't bulletproof, because obviously they don't have like a knowledge of what we have, or guns. I mean, they might have like laser guns. I mean, that's a hypothetical, but I think these niggas not bulletproof. So yeah, you can touch down if you want to. You get shot.
literally, people fell for that and they began not only following her, but acting out this evil plan on her behalf. Interestingly, it's reported that Valentina claimed that the world was supposed to end in 1989. And when that didn't happen, some people left the cult feeling, well, duped. But others didn't leave the cult and actually became stronger
Duped?
members of
You
the
should
cult.
feel
Because
guilty.
Valentina told them that the reason that the world didn't end yet was because there wasn't enough sacrifices yet to satisfy the extraterrestrials. And while a majority of the cult left in 1989, those who stayed became extremely, well, extreme, which is when the murders truly began to ramp up. Because some of the members in this cult were surprisingly educated doctors, what they would do on this religious killing spree is literally take organs out of the victims they murdered and sell them on the black market in an attempt to continue funding the cult's mission of getting acceptance from aliens. And it was actually
Wow.
the surgical precision of these removed organs that led authorities to these doctors that were linked directly to the Superior Universal Alignment. Although, unfortunately, even with 2 doctors being highly suspected of being involved in these murders, there was not enough evidence to convict them. And they and the rest of the cult were able to continue their reign of terror until 2 boys who were being abducted and actively castrated were able to escape and report to authorities everything that was happening, which led authorities directly to the cult, and the jig, for the most part, was up. And the result of the following investigation was several members of the cult being convicted and sentenced for their crimes. However,
Wow.
interestingly, Valentina, the woman who essentially put all of these people up to this, was reportedly acquitted of her crimes. Partly
what?
because she was not present at the scene of the crimes when they happened.
Oh
With her being
my
acquitted, it's
God.
believed by some that there are still remnants of the Superior
Nigga, she didn't get charged for racketeering. Like, she didn't get charged for racketeering. She's obviously the head leader in charge. That is a clear case of racketeering, conspiracy, or murder for hire. I mean, throw the book at this bitch, please.
universal alignment being led in rural parts of Brazil by Valentina and potentially others. But unfortunately, I truly don't have any up-to-date information about the court cases or the current state of superior universal alignment. But if nothing else, this cult is just another disgusting example of how people are willing to do almost anything if presented with a charismatic leader and tempted with, well, universal salvation. And to me, it seems scary to believe that some people could truly be tricked to do such disgusting things simply by telling them that, hey, the world's gonna end in a few years, so it doesn't matter anyway. This is for the greater good. And it almost seems like, especially in these last few situations, that these cults weren't even religious at all. The religious clothes put on these cults was simply just a red dress to distract the cult members from what was truly going on. A sadistic plan to control or hurt people. And that kind of seems to be the underlying theme with all cults. Somebody has an evil, depraved idea. They use religious ideologies to control people and have them execute those ideas, or be the victim of those ideas. And well, at this point, I don't think I need to tell you that cults are, well, evil. But speaking of evil, if you guys enjoyed this video but kind of want a more upbeat palate cleanse, check out the video on screen right now. It's the video.
Alright, with that being said, that was crazy cults that are still active today. Now, I feel like a lot of these cults are obviously avoidable because a lot of people don't ask, follow-up questions of how, what, why. But I feel like that last cult, I feel like niggas was just wanting to kill people. And there's no way you just believe that somebody, a woman told you the world gonna end in 10 years, so let's go on a murder streak and murder the little boys. I don't think it's possible for somebody to actually just believe that, like, off the rip. And then the happy science cult, oh my god, I think that only caught traction because of the anime. Don't get me wrong, I love anime all the time, but I think that's the main reason why it caught traction. Let me know how y'all feel about that down below. That being said, I'll see y'all boys later, dude.
You don't hold my soul. Get your hands off of me. Wanna rest my bones when I am free. You can't control my heart. Bones when I am free. You don't hold my soul. Get your hands off of me. Wanna rest my bones.